If the IRS decides your business is actually a hobby, they can deny every deduction you took, even if you really did spend the money. Today, we break down the red flags to look for.
Your creative genius deserves the same precision behind the numbers.
Welcome to Let's Get Fiscal,
hosted by Anastasia, Maisha, and Danielle.
Part of the women-led team at Coterie Tax.
From smart tax moves to cash flow strategy,
we decode everything it takes to run a thriving creative business
so you can scale with confidence and sleep easy at night.
Press play and let's grow your business.
Okay, this week we are going to talk about hobbies. I think you already have kind of enough hobbies, but
I like to explore my options. See what's out there.
Right.
Not my fault that social media throws them down my throat. And then I'm like, I do need to bedazzle things.
I'm not allowed more hobbies. Not allowed anything else. So when we talk about kind of building your own business, a lot of times, or at least hopefully, what you're doing is coming out of something that you love. So, I mean, and sometimes too, it's just something that kind of just happens. You know? I always say like Pocahontas in the wind. So started out as a bingo caller and now I'm a tax accountant. So yes, you take a little bit of a windy pathway to get to where you are. So there are certain situations where, especially with me, when I decided to go into accounting, it was one of those things where I had to take elective courses, right? And so all of my electives were accounting because that's what I was really interested in. And I just woke up one day and I was like, wait a second. So people actually just do this, So if I'm doing if I'm using this as kind of my rest and relaxation from all of the biochemistry and, molecular science and all that fun stuff, then
the lore deepens.
Maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
So the same thing happens with other people where you just kind of find something that you're really passionate about. And then all of a sudden you start to realize there's actually a demand for the thing that you're doing. And then you're able to figure out a way to monetize it and be able to support yourself and your family by doing this thing that you love. And like I said, maybe it wasn't originally the plan, I don't know. Like I said, not people grow up to want to be tax accountants at 6. But, it is something that happens. So especially when we are in those initial phases of, do I want to make this a business? Is it not really a business? Or, even if you are just randomly doing something that you love and you're able to earn some money, we do have to decide, is this an actual full-blown business or is it a hobby?
Okay. And then why would the IRS care if it's one way or the other?
So when it comes to businesses, you claim the income, you claim the expenses, and you pay tax on the profit. When it's a hobby, you only get the income. You don't get to claim any expenses.
Okay.
So you still have to claim all of the money that you receive. There's just no expenses that are tied to it.
So how do you differentiate that then? What are the differences between the two?
And that's where we really want to make sure that we're being careful because, like I said, in some of those early stages, a hobby could seem a lot similar to a business because both of them aren't making any money.
Yes.
When it's something that you're doing out of love and it's more of a passion project that you're working through. So how do you make sure, especially when you are in more of a creative field that isn't a traditional business model? How do you make sure that you are on the right side of, of this calculation? So a lot of times, number one, it's going to be, are you running this as a business?
Gotcha. Okay.
So are you making decisions as a business owner would because you're concerned about, the profit of the company, the reputation, all of those things? Or are you just doing things randomly because, without much thought of how this plays into the future? So things like, do you have a business model? Do you have a business plan? Do you know what's going to happen to this? And if let's say you're doing artwork and you're going to sell it for $500, a business person would make sure that all the materials cost you less than $500. But somebody who's an artist who just wants to get their artwork out there, maybe they're spending $500 and they're not really getting a profit off of that because it is just a piece of them. So the money doesn't really matter.
Gotcha.
You know,
Okay.
so that's where we kind of have the different aspects of you really need to make sure that the way that you're thinking about it and the way that you're structuring it is as a business.
Okay.
So, and like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has profit all the time. There's plenty of startups, there's plenty of major corporations that don't make any money. So whether or not you're making money isn't necessarily an indicator of business versus a hobby, but it does show some of your intent.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because a business is always intended to earn a profit. So like I said, are you running this in a way where your intention is to eventually earn a profit? So if you have a few years where you are building up your gear and, you know, obviously that takes a lot of initial investment, or whatever money you're getting in, you're purchasing bigger and better gear so that you can expand your service offerings. So those are key situations where, yes, you're running a business and you're moving towards the future, but you wouldn't be making any profit.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
okay. So what happens with, like, let's say you work in film and you've purchased like a bunch of gear in a year. And so, like, you know, your profit isn't going to really be a profit just because it's pretty expensive to buy that equipment. Is there still, as long as you have that intent, are there still ways for that to be considered a business to the IRS? Okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, what they're looking for is patterns.
Gotcha.
So a lot of things in taxes, in accounting, it's pattern recognition. So maybe that first year and that second year, you know, you're kind of setting the stage for what you're doing. But if you're in year 5, year 6, and you're still, you know, losing $40,000, I always tease, like, the IRS just is like, just stop it. Just don't do that anymore. You know, and also what they're looking for is, you know, a lot of the clients that have, you know, that are doing freelance, if you have a large loss, how are you getting the money to fund that loss? And sometimes it's like, okay, well, they have a high paying W-2 position and they're taking all of their kind of fun money and they're putting it towards this other thing. But then that means that it's not really your main focus anymore.
Yeah.
Your main focus is going to be your W-2 position, and that's what you're doing in order to earn money. So then, you know, now they're kind of looking at the freelance work a little bit more suspect, because they're like, okay, well, what is your incentive to actually grow this? And if there's not really much because you're just, you know, decreasing your W-2, then, you know, we have different things that we think about. Versus if you had a high-paying W-2 job, the first couple of years, you were using those extra funds to build this up off the ground, and then you quit that W-2 position.
Yeah.
And you moved fully over. Then, okay, now, even though we have those couple of years that we're building up, you did have the intent to continue this and have this be your main source of income, and then kind of move forward. So a lot of it comes down to just making sure that you're treating it like a full business. And some of that too even comes down to your record keeping, you know? So do you have...
That comes up a lot.
Right.
Okay.
Do you have a business bank account? Do you have a business credit card? When people pay you, are they paying like a Venmo business profile, or are they just paying you personally?
Gotcha.
You know, do you have a QuickBooks account that you're tracking all of the information in, or even just, you know, an Excel document that's really detailed where you're tracking all of the activity? Or is it just kind of like really super messy and all over the place? Because, you know, and those are the things where if you were a very, very structured business, you would have a business bank account. You would have all of these things.
Gotcha. Yeah, because that's part of the intent portion of it. Okay. Are there any other ways? So it made sense about the W-2 being like, if you had that going for years and whatnot, are there other ways that you could be kind of like, you would look a little suspicious to the IRS that it's not like legit?
I mean, So the IRS does post on their website, there's 9 tests to
okay. They have
confirm.
like a whole questionnaire thing, basically.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So, and that's what I say a lot of times with the IRS. You can easily look at their publications and the Internal Revenue manual that the employees use in order to make decisions. So all of this information is public information. So you have really good insight into how the IRS is looking at a lot of these scenarios. So like I said, some of these we've already looked at, but the taxpayer carries out activity in a business-like manner and maintains complete and accurate books and records. So, making sure that you are very organized is going to be really important. And the IRS looks at these things and they want you to do it before they even ask.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So if you are doing things with really no reason to it, there's no pressure to do it. I mean, you know that you need to do it, but if you have really good record keeping and you've been doing it for a long time versus when they ask you to do it, you get everything prepared, then they're going to take that with a grain of salt because now you have pressure from them to be able to show them a certain story that will benefit you in front of the auditor versus if you've just been doing a system from the very beginning and you're able to show that you're working through that. So, again, you put time and effort to make sure that it's profitable.
Okay.
So, and a lot of times some people, they get stuck in that realm of, I need to always have a loss. And this business should always lose money because then I don't pay any taxes. And I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why you would want to still have a profitable business. And this is going to be one of the reasons why. So, just because you have a little bit of income, it's not something that a good tax strategist can't help you with or make sure that it's beneficial for you. So I normally kind of stay away from that idea of let's just lose money every single year so that I'd never have to pay taxes, just very silly.
Especially if the IRS is like, then don't do this. Like if you're not making any money.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And they have certain calculations, especially depending on where you live, of how much is required for you to survive.
Gotcha.
So, you're kind of looking at things there. Also that you depend on the income for your livelihood.
Okay.
So, again, sometimes that's, you can have another position somewhere else, and that's going to be kind of paying the bills while you're doing this kind of initial setup. But at some point in time, this should be able to support you in some type of way. I think,
So then what if you had the intent of it being a side business? Is that a hobby? Are those like interchangeable? Where it's just like, okay, I never expect to like live off of this income, but I do have a thing that I do. Or like people who have a full-time job as a graphic designer, but then do contract work on the side. Like is that then a hobby?
That's what they're looking at.
Oh, okay.
Is this side business actually a hobby?
Okay. So you would still need to do that, even if your intent wasn't to live off of it. You need to have other intent in order to prove that it's a business. Okay. I got you.
Yep. So even things like, are you making efforts to make sure that you are improving your profitability? So if you're losing money, are you learning, hey, this is losing money, so now I'm going to go to like different vendors, different things like that. So am I using the information to learn, or am I just saying like, okay, I'll just continue losing money, So they have all of these, like I said, these 9 tests that they're looking for to determine whether or not it is an actual side business or a full business, or if this is your hobby.
Yeah.
And like I said, what we're looking for really is people with a high W-2 and a side business that loses money every single year.
Okay, yeah.
That's going to be our red flag. Also, if you have a business that is consistently losing money, but it's difficult to know, like, how are you affording your life? You know?
Yep.
You're not being claimed as somebody's dependent. You're not, like pulling from investment accounts. So where is your funding coming from?
Got you.
Because everybody's got to eat. So there's that. And like I said, the IRS is consistently looking at intent. So it's making sure that when you are filing your return, that you're telling the story that's actually accurate within it. And part of that story is just making reasonable decisions for the business that further the business,
Yeah.
So for example, if you just took the business and like took a trip to Paris, well, why did you do that?
Yeah.
How many clients did you get? Are you actually going there to meet clients because you have like a foreign distributor?
Gotcha.
So you want to like walk through their factory, you want to meet with them, and then that's the reason why you're going over there. What is that business purpose that any other reasonable business owner would be making the decision and saying, yes, this is an investment in the company, versus if it's something that's, just only slightly related or kind of more for fun.
Okay. Okay, cool. So for a person like that's on the cusp, we're not sure if they're there, what should they do today?
So definitely, like I said, make sure you're claiming all the income.
Yes.
So whether or not it's determined to be a hobby or an actual business, you want to make sure that you're claiming all of the income that's associated with it. And don't be afraid to claim the income because, like I said, in a lot of cases, our tax strategies are based on the tax amounts that you owe.
Yeah.
So if you don't owe any tax, then there's not really any tax strategies that we can do at that point in time. So there's a couple different cases where claiming income really helps you.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things. And then also making sure that you're keeping track of your efforts to make it profitable.
Yeah.
So different things like, I've had certain artists where, they have a studio that's outside of their home. They're going into shows. They're, doing little things like selling stickers and stuff like that. So, but it's all kind of lower dollar, but they're really starting to just trying to make their name known and get known by the galleries and things like that. So, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, well then you should be in a show.
Yeah.
So let's see like the tickets or something from that show where you were trying to do that. And then from that show, who are you able to talk to? And, some of these things, the IRS recognizes that relationships can take time to build, but at a certain point in time, you have to have a relationship, and at least some method of doing it. And like I said, if you decide that, hey, we've done all of the shows, but we're not really moving forward, then you learn something and you do something else.
Yeah.
So really that's going to be a big key is, are you taking the information and learning to do something differently? Or are you just deciding to kind of do the same thing over and over again? So, like I said, I love when people love what they do. And that's really kind of the main point of,
of course,
doing all of it, but just making sure that you are being honest with yourself and the situation and making sure that your tax return reflects that so that you're able to really differentiate yourself from a hobby and show that you are a full business and kind of move forward from there.
Okay. That is awesome. Those are great tips.
Yep. So if you have any questions about whether or not your business is classified as a hobby or a full business, or you're kind of right on the edge and you're not really sure, feel free to put a comment below or send us an email and we can talk through your specific situation. Thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys.
That's a wrap on Let's Get Fiscal. Ready to stop guessing and start saving?
Click the link in the show notes.
Grab your consult and let's make your business work for you,
Not the other way around. You've got this.